Welcome to the best of first-person episodes from Phantoms and Monsters. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you'll be notified of all future uploads.
Large intelligent green orb encounter. I am a 49-year-old married man from Connecticut who works outdoors and spends much of my free time outside as well. Between my job and my disposition, I am always extremely observant of my surroundings. This allows me to pick up on things that most others would be oblivious to. I recently found your show on YouTube and thought I'd give you a shout. I have always been interested in the supernatural UFO cryptid subject, and I've been fortunate enough to have had a number of strange experiences. Briefly, they are: Indiantown Gap Army Range, Pennsylvania, mid-1990s. With other witnesses, watched lights high in the sky travel across the horizon at incredible speeds and change directions at impossible angles. Lake Winnipesaukee, New Hampshire, early 2000s. Had rocks thrown at me by what I now assume was a Bigfoot, although at the time had no idea what was really happening beyond the unwelcome feeling that prompted me to leave. New Durham, New Hampshire, mid-1990s. While hiking, I stumbled across a large, perfectly round scoop out of the earth approximately 8 feet in diameter. Not on a slope, no rock crawled out of it, no reason it would be there. No machinery tracks, not near any roads. No good explanation. I did not have a camera with me. New Canaan, Connecticut, 2010. I saw reflective shoes jog across the road adjacent to a cemetery. When my vehicle reached the vicinity of the jogger, no one was there, and there wasn't anywhere for them to have gone due to a large fence and no sidewalks. Trumbull, Connecticut, 2017. I watched a massive object glide silently above me. Although I was staring at it with intense focus, I could not determine exactly what I was looking at. No sound, far too large to have traveled at such a low speed and altitude, no landing lights, too big, too slow, too low. I stared but could make out nothing as to fuselage or wings, only 2 red and 2 white lights. Reported to MUFON. Stratford, Connecticut, summer 2019. While watering the garden at home, I noticed a black immobile object high in the sky. Despite a light breeze, this object did not move at all, but remained motionless. I was able to take many photos in rapid succession and reported it to Norfolk. Upon further scrutiny, I feel it is a hole or portal that changed shape rapidly. I'd be happy to supply the original pictures and may send them to Mark D'Antonio as well. Lastly, my most traumatizing and unforgettable encounter was with a green glowing orb while in the New Hampshire Army National Guard Mountain Infantry. We were training at the Ethan Allen Firing Range in Jericho-Underhill, Vermont, near Stowe Ski area in the early 1990s. My company was there to do our 2-week summer training. I was in my foxhole with my assistant gunner. We were waiting for the opposing force to attack our perimeter at around 4 a.m. on a drizzling dark morning. As the attack began on the opposite side of the perimeter, we knew that we wouldn't see any fighting. It was at this time that a glowing green orb about the size of a basketball silently and methodically approached us from our left side. My assistant gunner and I watched it come from a great distance and move past us, then off into the distance. It was approximately 15 feet off of the ground and about 40 feet away from us. The entire time we watched, the orb was dodging trees and branches. I immediately got the sense that it was ancient and was bothered by the artillery and grenade simulators. My assistant gunner and I immediately turned to one another and asked, "What the F was that?" Again and again. I think about these things often. I do not have any friends, family or co-workers that are open to discussing these subjects. There is much more to our world than most people can comprehend. Thank you, Andy.
Be careful of what you wish for. About 3.5 years ago I had an experience. I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee, and I've been working in the yard all day. It was late June and I had just got my daughter one of the big pools, you know, like the 18-foot around above ground pool. It is about 5 feet deep. And I said, "Hey, come in, you know, it's 10 o'clock, come out. I'm done. Come get in the pool with me." Well, she didn't. She was on the phone, whatever, so I got in the pool. So I'm lying on my back looking at the stars, and it's a beautiful clear night, and, as I always do when I look at the stars, I think, oh my gosh, I wish I could see something. I wish I could see a UFO. I stood up. I had a float that I was hanging on to, and I was gonna lay on my stomach, and as I stood up, directly across from me, about 100 yards away, was this huge red, about 25 to 30 feet in diameter, orb, plasma-like thing, in my yard floating through the trees, along the tree line, but in between the trees. There was no possible way that could happen. and behind the house and, of course, I said, "What the F is that?" out loud. So I start to swim to the other side of the pool so I could hurry and see if it comes out the other side, and it did, and it goes through the woods. It's about 3 to 5 miles per hour, very slow, very big. But not mechanical. Not of this world. And so it goes on up, and I live near a cemetery, and it goes up the hill towards the cemetery and turns right and cuts across the cemetery on the little drive through the cemetery, but now it's something mechanical. It is not the red orb. It has white and red lights on the bottom. Small. Almost looks like a car's lights, but it wasn't a car. They locked the cemetery gates at dusk, so it was not that. But I could see nothing but the lights. I could see no metallic shade. Nothing, but it did turn into something like that. It goes all the way across the cemetery and then turns again and cuts across the highway and heads west towards Oak Ridge, in that direction. They had just gone in the house because when I first saw it, I turned to look across the street and yell at them, "Do you see this?" And they're not home. Or rather, they were inside. They've already gone in, but I did share it with my daughter, and she was about 13 at the time, and she said, "You got to report this." I said, "No way. Jenny."
Lights in the sky, growling creature and voices in the woods. I live near Pevely, Missouri, not far from the Mississippi River. This incident took place on June 30, 2018, about 1 a.m. my time. I was having trouble sleeping since it was very warm and I was restless. I went outside onto the back porch to smoke and saw a small yellow light in the sky in front of me. I didn't think much of it, but it was getting closer. I moved a bit to my left in order to get a better look, and it suddenly stopped. I stood still and continued watching it. About a minute later, I noticed two more lights approaching from the same direction. There was now a large dim yellow light and two smaller bright lights, one was white and the other was orange. The orange light then flashed brightly, and then there was a loud bang a second later. The white light disappeared, but the orange light started to come towards me, while the dim yellow light seemed to observe what was going on from a distance. I was becoming more curious and attempted to signal it to come closer, but it stopped and started to back away until it disappeared. I was mesmerized by this activity and continued to observe. The orange light then reappeared, accompanied by the white light. The lights were dancing around the sky, going in all different directions. I stood there, lit another cigarette and watched the lights for about 15 minutes. Then I heard a distinct growling sound coming from the woods behind the house. I could literally hear this thing walking through the brush, cracking limbs as it moved closer. It was growling and snarling. As it moved closer to me, I could see wide orbs of various sizes flying throughout the woods. Then the growling and footfalls stopped. After a few seconds, I heard what sounded like someone was calling my name from a distance. There was another call coming another direction as well. I was beginning to get scared, but I wanted to know what this was. Then suddenly a loud roar emanated from the edge of the woods. It was so terrifying that also lost the use of my legs. I quickly gathered myself and ran into the house and locked the door. I peeked out the kitchen window and attempted to take photos of the orbs, but the phone went dead. I had just charged the damn thing. I didn't hear any more roars or sounds, and the orbs soon disappeared. The next day, July 1st, I called my neighbor who lives down the road on a small farm. I asked her if she had heard or seen anything the previous night. She replied by telling me that something got into her barn and killed 2 turkeys, but she never heard or saw anything. I asked her if I could come over and look around, and she agreed. As I looked around the barn, I didn't see anything unusual, but her livestock was very skittish. Her dogs and cat never came outside and were hunkered down in the barn. I don't know what killed the turkeys, but I have no doubt it was the same thing in the woods behind my house. I later walked through the woods and didn't see anything out of the ordinary, but there was what I would call an electric or static charge that affected me as I walked around. It actually gave me a bad headache. I decided to contact you in regards to this experience because I haven't felt well since then. I'm very weak and have trouble keeping my food down. If it gets worse, I may need to go to the doctor. Have you heard or read any similar situations like this? My brother believes that this was a Bigfoot, but it still doesn't explain the lights, the orbs, the voices, and how I feel. Thanks for reading. JM.
This is Lon Strickler. If you like this program, It would help us if you would give it a thumbs up. Then subscribe and click the bell icon so you get notification when we upload new first-person encounters. We have many more to come very soon. And by the way, if you have a suggestion or an experience of your own, please leave a comment.